The carnivore diet is too extreme. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a little something. I'm recording this video just a couple days after the assassination attempt on President Trump. And like him or hate him, that's not the point. That was almost the darkest day in American history in over 60 years. And I just feel like that should be acknowledged. I feel really bad for everyone in the States going through that. It's creating a lot of turmoil, I'm sure. And most of my audience is from the States. And I just want to let you all know, I'm thinking of you. I feel bad, whichever side you're on, as crazy as that sounds. I just want you to know I don't agree with what happened, and I just think it needs to be acknowledged. Before we get to the topic about how extreme the carnivore diet is, because it is a really extreme diet, I just want to talk about my squat challenge. So keep in mind, this is a squat challenge anyone can do. You don't have to join my YouTube membership to do this. It's just a simple challenge. 10 squats every 45 minutes for 8.5 hour window. It's not that complicated. It's pretty simple. Just make sure you do the squats with the best form that you can. And whether you join that group or not, it's not important. I want you to try and do this challenge. Now, you might have to tweak it depending on your work schedule, but I'm sure you can find a way to get as accurate to that as possible. The goal of that is to lower your blood sugar, which will affect your glycagon, which will affect your fasting insulin. It's all around good for you. It's good to balance your hormones in every single way. Squats are one of the best exercises you can do. Enough about that. Let's get into the topic at hand. The carnivore diet is such an extreme diet. Unfortunately, people view it as a diet. And by diet, I mean way to lose weight. The word diet's kind of interesting because it has a couple different connotations to it, right? People look at it as you're doing a way of eating to lose weight, or a diet can also be something that you just do day to day. Yeah, I have a regular standard diet, a standard American diet, or I do this or I do that. It's just the way you eat. Yeah, I don't have too much junk food, or yeah, I do this. But nonetheless, it's both. That's the amazing thing about it. It is an extreme diet because for lots of people, it's an elimination diet. They come to this way of eating trying to fix a health issue, whether it's obesity or high blood sugar or just any form of diabetes or autoimmune disorder, and lots of disorders that don't seem to have any known cure. The carnivore diet tends to put these health issues into remission. So I think that's fascinating all on its own. And that's what draws people to a carnivore diet. Lots of people are looking for something to manage their health problems, whether it's eczema or psoriasis or just any sort of autoimmune disorder or any sort of skin issue. People tend to get benefits, whether it's digestive issues or it's problems with their liver or their hormones. I got rid of my allergies of 30 years doing a carnivore diet. I lost 165 pounds doing a carnivore diet. I still have further to go. I still have insulin issues, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this challenge. I've had lots of people join me on my challenges over the last few years with my channel. So I think it's pretty cool if you try and work your way into this. There's different ways to manage health problems. Insulin seems to be at the root cause of a vast amount of health problems. So managing that insulin is a way to manage all these other health issues. You can manage insulin in a lot of different ways. The carnivore diet is a more extreme one. It's often also viewed as a fasting mimicking diet, probably because the meat digests higher up in the intestines, in the small intestines. So after your stomach, you go into all the small intestines, and then around that goes the large intestines going down your body. From your side, I guess it goes more like that. So when you balance that gut microbiome, you're giving it the rest it needs. You're giving your pancreas and liver the rest it needs. And from there, that's where healing starts to happen. So when you're looking at people who are doing a carnivore diet and they're being really strict with it, sometimes they can get dogmatic about it. I'm extremely strict. I don't have a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet, as I always mention, but that's because I have a sugar and carbohydrate addiction. And for me, a carnivore diet has to be extreme. It doesn't mean I have to be dogmatic about it. And what I mean by that is I don't force that on anyone else, whether they're doing carnivore or not. If I'm talking about carnivore, I'll mention a carnivore diet and why I am the way I am with it, but I don't tell people that they should do it. In fact, if they don't want to do something like that, all the more power to them. It's a pretty extreme way of eating. I happen to enjoy meat though, so I don't mind it, but I can't manage carbohydrates. I can't have a little bit becomes very quickly an uncontrollable amount way too frequently. But the neat thing about a carnivore diet is it brought me balance with my eating disorders. Eating disorders, it's not like I'm dealing with anorexia or anything, but I do like to binge. I have had a history of emotional eating, and carnivore diet has brought those into a dramatic balance. I don't think they're perfect, but it's dramatically easier to manage those issues. I don't overeat typically. And if I do, it's something like bacon or steak. And it's hard to say I've overeaten. I probably had more calories than I might need in a day, but I'm not eating to the point of being stuffed. You naturally get to the point where you're satiated and then you're done. It's a nice place to be. So because of that, it's not a diet, say, to lose weight or just manage health problems. It becomes my daily diet. It just becomes my way of eating. It's got a maintenance program built into it. You just stick with it and your body finds its balance. Now, the difficult part is getting there and getting over your relationship and your addiction with sugar and carbohydrates. If you're trying a carnivore diet and you're having a rough time sticking to it because you keep going back to the foods or beverages that you shouldn't be having, well, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? It's not just a problem that you have that you just can't give it up. You learn over time, if you've tried it over and over and over again, you realize more and more you've got a slight addiction problem. Maybe you might even have a large addiction problem. It took me years of trying it on and off and on and off and on and off before I realized the depth of my addiction. So once I realized that, it was, I would say, it was like a light switch went off. I had a moment of self-reflection and I realized, you know what? I can't control this. I need to submit to this. And once I did, it was easy for me. But nonetheless, I find it easy to maintain. So the carnivore diet is extreme. It's an extreme elimination diet. It mimics fasting, and it also allows people to stay on that way of eating as long as they want, because you learn to regulate your body and just eat when you want to eat. You don't obsess over your next meal. It's a really nice place to be. And when you talk to people about it, they will often raise their eyebrows. They'll be really confused, like, why would you do something so ridiculous and so extreme? Because it is extreme. Once you explain to people why you're doing it, especially if they've ever struggled with weight and they've done any sort of diet, especially if they've done a keto diet, those people are already 80% of the way there on a carnivore diet if they want to be, because they understand the importance of not having sugar and carbohydrates in your diet. But people who don't have those problems with sugar and carbohydrates have a hard time wrapping their mind around it. And so it seems extreme. No different than abstaining from alcohol the rest of your life seems extreme to me, because I've never had to struggle with alcohol. Never been an issue. Same with drugs. It's never been an issue. I've never tried drugs. I have no desire to do drugs. So when you talk to someone who maybe has their way of eating in order, they just don't get it. But they also haven't heard of something like this sometimes, or they just don't understand why you would do something so extreme. Well, most people who turn to a carnivore diet have often been in an extremely bad way of health. And it takes something extreme to manage it. They've tried lots of other ways, and this is something that seems to work for them. Yes, it is extreme to continually eat this way. If you're not getting a benefit from it, then you may need to stop and assess what's going on. Maybe you're doing it wrong, or maybe it's just not for you. Maybe you don't need to be too extreme. Maybe you're not getting enough protein or fat, because fat's your major fuel source at this point, not carbohydrates. You can't cut out carbohydrates without increasing your fat. There's no two ways about that. You have to do that. So sometimes you have to watch how you explain this way of eating to people, right? So I just want you to keep that in mind when talking about carnivore. Know that you're probably not going to have a warm reception with it when you talk to people about it. They may think it's even unhealthy, and you're not going to be able to explain all the research you've done in a really short amount of time to make them understand. So sometimes the best thing you can do is just lay the seed. Let your results be the example to them, and then they'll come to you and want to learn a little bit more. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Take care.